say. And I'm even having now a conspiracy in the local community, conspiring to say that there is some madness in me, and they want to kind of like sort of take a hold of me and, I don't know, probably inject some drugs and put you in a straitjacket, but they don't want to receive what I'm saying. And this is an adage or an old experience, because when they deflect what I'm saying, eventually they come into the suffering of it all. They do come into the suffering. So it's just a real issue. And even in the church, the people are not receiving me. And even those who are running the church, they've stated, we don't want to receive what you're saying, though they preached it in the sermon. Yeah, and I'm just going to go over it again. It says, he that receiveth you receiveth me, and he that receiveth me receiveth him that sent me. And earlier on, I was reading on Jeremiah 28, and the wind is blowing this Bible here, so I'm just going to use the New Good News version that's written in the pamphlet here. Oh dear, it's flicked over my page. I wanted to stick with this King James version. So if I go over to the morning liturgy here, reading, okay, and that was Jeremiah, as I said to you, 28. Oh dear, it's just some nice cool breeze is blowing in the wind. Okay, so welcome to the show. This is Joycelyn Linton coming into the Higher Calling. Today is the 2nd of July 2017, Sunday. I'm just outside St. Edmund's Church, and I'm reading the second reading of the morning, which is taken from the book of St. Matthew, chapter 10, verse 40 to the end. And I'm talking about receiving. And, in the reading of Jeremiah, it talks about the prophet Jeremiah spoke to the prophet Hananiah, and in the presence of the priests and all the people who were standing in the house of the Lord. And the prophet Jeremiah said, Amen. And now Hananiah, he was what the Lord called a false prophet, because Jeremiah was sent to the Lord's people to tell them that because of their consistent disobedience to the word of the Lord, that now they're going to be subjected to punishment from the Lord, and he's going to put them under their enemy. He's going to put them under the leadership of tyranny. Oh, yes. So they didn't want to receive it, nor did the tribe of Israel, the king of Israel. They didn't want to receive this. So Hannah came out thinking, well, he can be a prophet and he can give the word and it can override Jeremiah. So he prophesied that this will not happen to the king and to the people. He prophesied that everything will be all right. So he gave a false prophecy on a kind of a peace. Right? But Jeremiah now actually came with a higher prophecy of peace. And his prophecy was in the spirit and in the truth of the Lord. And the peace that he spoke about was where there will be no evil, where there will be no wickedness, where there will be no temptation, no entities, no adversary, that we will be in the pure, infinite righteousness of the Lord. Now we come into holiness. And the as I was saying, it propagates peace. Whatever tumult is taking place, and you say, everything just starts, everything decodes from the Talmud and starts to propagate into peace. And we know that Amen is the end of a prayer. So when the prophet Jeremiah said Amen, he propagated peace, and he said that will be the end. That will be the end of all the Talmud that we're having. We shall come into the peace of the Lord. And so now it says here, to ever who receives me. Okay. So I was saying in this morning's reading that again, if we go over to chapter 1, 12. Okay, and I'll see if I can get there without the wind disturbing the pages here. Oops. So, but as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe in his name. All right, believe in his name. So, in other words, it's not everybody that can receive a prophet. And that's exactly what is being shown there with the prophet Jeremiah and those that him who contested against him, prophet Hananiah. Hananiah, he was in a different channel. I'm going to say he was in a different realm. And he was in the realm of the physical body and all that was taking place. He wasn't able to come higher into the word of the Lord and what Jeremiah was really saying. And it goes to show that when people are in disobedience, they cannot really hear the word of the Lord. They cannot come in, they cannot listen, they cannot hear, and they cannot come into the understanding of it all. And he says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. Okay, lack of knowledge and lack of understanding. So he thinks, well, he's a prophet, he's going to give a word, and that will come through. Okay, but Jeremiah is stronger in the Lord than he is in the world. Okay, and the prophet Moses has already said that man shall not live by the bread alone, by spirituality alone, but every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Lord. And Moses was talking to the Lord's peculiar people, the people that he was married to, he's opposed to, his other half. All right, so he's saying, you're becoming my prophets, and on the earth my word will flow through you, and I will see that it will establish itself. I will see that my word will perform. Okay, so what is saying here now in Matthew chapter 10 verse 40, he that receiveth you receiveth me, and he that receiveth me receiveth him that sent me. So to receive the prophet is to receive the word of the Lord. Okay, and to receive the word of the Lord is to receive the word, to receive the Lord. And it's the Lord that will enable this to all take place, because the earth is in a fallen state. It's in a fallen grace. Okay, the earth has been subjected to be under the tyranny of an adversary to the Lord. Okay, so and that's the Lord who has caused that to happen, because of the disobedience that was taking place on the earth. So because the Lord has caused that to happen, it is the Lord that would free us from the situation, that we are able to hear him, to listen, and to receive his word, because the Lord will ensure that his word shall perform, that the Lord shall ensure that he shall establish his word. And if we look go over to the first book of Samuel, chapter 1, and I think it's verse 35, roundabout there, you'll see where Elkanah speaks to his wife Hannah, and she wants to wait to wean her child before she brings him to the priest. And Elkanah said, the Lord shall establish his word. Okay, so, and that's the prophet too, who's speaking that, who's got a higher knowledge of the Lord. So in order to appreciate the word of the Lord and appreciate his vessel, his messenger, we have to have that enlightenment in us. We need the Lord to enlighten us to see and know his messenger. And then we receive his word, and the Lord shall perform his word in us. And so now we come into the rewards of the Lord. We too become in the image of the Lord. You see? And that's a very high call. That's a very high call, to come into the image of the Lord. And that's what the Lord has said through the prophet Moses in Genesis 1. He said, let us make man in our own image. And I just to get the accuracy of the word, okay, I'll just go over to Genesis 1, verse 26. All right. The people are quite far away from me, but they seem to be hearing me and kind of looking over onto this way each time or I'm right at the back of the park, and they're way ahead of me, but somehow their spirit is catching the message because they seem to be deflected, and every now and then they stop in their football playing and look over to me. Okay, and I've got the microphone very close to my mouth here. So if I read over into verse 26, Genesis, it says, "And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fish, and over the fowls of the air." But this is the bit I wanted. And verse, if I go on to verse 27, so it says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. Okay? So God created man in his own image, male and female. And it doesn't mean he's created a male gender, a male and a man and a woman. It means that each person has the opposite components. Each person has the male component and the female, you see. So we are to complement each other all the time. So what the Lord is saying, when I give you the word, you are to receive the word, you see. But if you are not receiving the word, then there is something between you and I. There is something between you and I that you cannot receive the word. Okay, and the people are drawing nearer now. They're drawing nearer. Wow. So you cannot receive the word because there is something between you and I. Okay? And it says here, the wind is blowing. Can you hear the wind? So it says here, if I go on in verse 41, he that receiveth a prophet in the name of a prophet shall receive a prophet's reward, and he that receiveth a righteous man in the name of a righteous man shall receive a righteous man's reward. So we're going up in steps. We're in increments of climbing up the ladders of heaven. And we know Jacob's ladder. He had this dream of a ladder going up into the heavens, and the angels were coming up and down. You see, so this is a teaching the Lord is giving, is that it's an ascension process to come up into the Lord and to be able to receive his rewards. So he's calling us to come with a clean heart, yes, a pure heart. And as Jesus has said, it's what's going on the inside that defiles the person on the outside. And Jesus has given the example when we read the Gospel of St. Mark chapter 7 and we read from 24. And you know what, folks, I'll do that. I'll go over to the Gospel of St. Mark's so that everybody can be clear. Because though the people in the church read this and spoke it and taught it, but by the end of the church, when I said, well, the word of the Lord has said this to me, they said, no, we won't receive it. We won't receive it and we won't allow it to happen. So it goes to show how much we take heed to the word of the Lord that we read out of our very mouth. And that's why in the reading it says, listen and hear. Okay? But we have to have that ability from the Lord to be able to listen and hear. So if I go over to the Gospel of 7 and Mark 7, and I read here, so if I read, so and it says, and ye suffer him no more to do aught for his father or his mother, making the word of God of none effect through your tradition, which you have delivered, and many such like things to do ye. So the Gospel of St. Mark, it starts off with the Pharisees complaining that the disciples do not wash their hands before they eat. And eating means knowledge. It means not knowledge, information, knowledge, heavenly knowledge. But in this instance, we're keeping it in a physical sense. But Jesus is also prophesying the sabbatical rest that's coming upon the land, upon the earth, in the latter section. So that's complaining